All right, so we're reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're in the chapter The Master with the Brahmo Devotees on page 147 in the unabridged version of it. And Thakur Sri Ramakrishna was talking about the different types of devotion last week. He was saying that there's sattvic devotion, there's rajasic devotion, and there's tamasic devotion. And he was going on and saying a devotee who possesses uh, the sattva, which is the calm devotion or the balanced devotion, he meditates on God in absolute secret inside his mosquito net because he doesn't do anything for show. He's utterly unconcerned about people's opinions, and he's very careful. He has a very guarded sense of ego, so it's nothing to feed it. Others think he's asleep. Since he is late getting up, they think perhaps that he's not slept well during the night. His love for the body goes only as far as appeasing his hunger, and that only by means of rice and simple greens. So that's the sattvic devotee. And then we had the rajasic devotee. He puts a mark on his forehead and a necklace of holy Rudraksha beads, real big ones they'll wear, and they'll intersperse it with gold beads, and he'll make sure he's got a nice little silk mat to sit on and some couscous grass on top of that and another milk satin or silk thing on top of that. And he'll be very particular about all of those externals and very showy around his spirituality. And when he worships, he wears a silk cloth. He has this special silk chadar to sit in. And then the tamasic bhakti, that the what tamasic is inert, usually lazy, slow to move, uh, kind of hedged in with ignorance, but can have devotion for God too. And that type of devotee, the tamasic devotee, he has burning faith. Such a devotee literally extorts boons from God, even as a robber falls upon a man and plunders his money. Find, beat, kill. That is his way, the way of the dacoits. So he's the one that holds God to his promises. You said, you told me, anybody who came here to this place, it will be their last birth. You said it, I'm in. that's tamasic devotion. So it's wonderful to hear Thakur talk about that and give us all a place to exist as we are, to spread out and grow from the seed that he planted when maybe that he planted when we were born. Saying this, the master began to sing in a sweet voice with a rapturous love, his eyes turned upward. Why should I go to Ganga or Gaya, to Kashi or Kanchi or Prabhas, so long as I can breathe my last with Kali's name upon my lips? What need of rituals has a man? What need of devotions any more, if he repeats mother's name at the three holy hours? Rituals may pursue him close, but never can they overtake him. Charity, vows, and giving of gifts do not appeal to Madan's mind. The blissful mother's lotus feet are his whole prayer and sacrifice. Who could ever have conceived the power of her name that her name possesses? Shiva himself, the god of gods, sings her praise with his five mouths. Oh, yeah. So this is that if you have that devotion, if you have that love of the Divine Mother, there's nothing else that needs to be done. That is the boat to the other shore, to have that divine love for the Divine Mother. And to be practicing every day at the three holy hours, just chanting Mother's name, finding your joy and your bliss in that practice, and just being changed by her presence in you always. The master was beside himself with love for the Divine Mother. He sang with fiery enthusiasm. If only I can pass away repeating Durga's name, how can you then, O Blessed One, withhold from me deliverance, wretched though I may be? Then he said, one must take the firm attitude. What? I have chanted the mother's name. How can I be a sinner any more? I am her child. I am an heir to her powers and her glories. So this notion of just that strength of mind, to be identified with that inner self, not the changing self, not the ego self, not the thinking self. That identity is changing and will last for just a short breath and then goes away. That includes our personality, our hopes and our dreams, our past events and our past our future plans. Not that self. The self that chants Divine Mother's name with this kind of attitude is a self sitting squarely in the silence of the shrine within, where the self, where we meet that eternity, outside of mind, outside of thinking, beyond the body. That this is where that devotee sings and chants the divine name. And in that freedom and in that bliss, he knows there's nothing that can touch him, that can take him. And Thakur is saying one must have this firm attitude. What? I have chanted the mother's name, which all of us have, indeed, or chanted God's name of some kind that he or she or that recognizes. And we are indeed their child and an heir to all that God has to give, to all of the love and bliss and light. That is our birthright. That is what is the image within us that we return to when we come to know of ourselves, when we come to know of that divine stamp with the name of God on it, fastened on the plaque in the heart, just above the little spring where that thumb-sized water spout of pure love, unconditioned love, washes in to become our personality, to become our body, to become our mind, and then continue on through to be our effect on the world at large, to play our role in this dream as we romp in delight in the presence of the beloved. So one must take that attitude firmly. I have chanted the mother's name. How can I be a sinner anymore? Not just by identity, but also just by fact. How could I pursue those things? They're empty. I've seen their emptiness. I've seen their repeating endless nature of going nowhere with constant hunger. I've seen that. If you can give a spiritual turn to your tamas, you can realize God with its help. Force your demands on God. He is by no means a stranger to you. He is indeed your very own. So it's very interesting here because he's saying tamas would normally, it's laziness, inertia, lack of interest, lack of accomplishment, that kind of tiredness. And he's saying, look, you can spiritualize anything. Take your faults and spiritualize them. So use them to put your mind on the beloved, on God. Use everything about yourself to put your mind on God. If you're lusty, lust for the divine. When you see someone that awakes those actions in you, compliment the divine mother or the divine lover, how wonderfully they're dressed in that body. Use your faults, use your shortcomings, use your ignorance to reach the divine. That's the tamasic bhakti path, to spiritualize all of your weaknesses, because they're our experience. They are a freight train of our samskaras running through the middle of our life, very difficult to change. And usually when we're in that state, we just get depressed and we give up, or we start falling into our vices so that we can find some comfort in forgetting, and ignoring, not paying attention to the pain of our shortcoming. But Thakur's saying, no, 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 don't get caught up in it in the mind like that. Don't run that hamster wheel. Get off the hamster wheel. Look at all of your life and say, look, I have chanted Mother's name. How can I be identifying myself as weak, or identifying myself as a sinner, or identifying myself as impure? I am the ever free, the beloved, the divine. I will take this to the top, to have that kind of determination. So spiritualize your life. Everything you're trying to overcome, while you're trying to overcome it, think of some way that you can spiritualize it, that you can make you think of the beloved, to remember your divine nature, to remember pure love. However it can be done, it must be done, is what Thakur is saying.
Swami, I had a question.
And I love what he says here. You force your demands on God, demand them. You're an heir. This is the very difference between a beggar and an heir. We can force our demands on the beloved. We can say, look, you're a God of love. What's all this stuff going on? This just won't do. You need to fix this immediately, or I'm going to have to stop chanting your name. We force. Talcor gives that example. It's like we have to have that kind of confidence, that kind of relationship with the beloved, where where we know that love, we know his commitment or her commitment to bringing us home, and that great gift of grace that is for all of us. He is by no means a stranger to you. There is no way in which the divine can be considered a stranger to you. He is indeed your very own. Do you know how intimate what he means in that intimacy? Your very own. Very own. It's a wonderful thing to contemplate. I share that quite regularly. To take those quick characteristics of Satchitananda, and sit with them and realize God is your existence. Think about that. Think about how close that makes your relationship with that. He is your love, your recognition and your action of love. He is that. Think how intimate he is for you. Think how intimate you are with him. Think how deeply you want love. Think how hungrily you have searched for love in your life. God has seen every bit of that and is so deeply touched by that love, that he cannot move from it. God is your wisdom, your ability to learn, your ability to grow, which means he's intimate with the very workings of your mind and your history. He knows everything. He's architecting this moment for your advantage. He's conspiring all day, every day, to bring you to that bliss of being, to that fulfilled life. Always, always, you are the divine favorite. And the beautiful thing about having an infinite divine is that all of us are truly his favorite, and he doesn't have to give anybody less for someone else to be his favorite, because he has infinite love and unconditioned love. So everybody is the divine favorite. And it's wonderful to think that. And it's a great joy to think that. When Krishna was dancing around the fire in the woods with all the gopi girls, every single one of them, it says, felt like he loved her the most. That is God. That is God. You will feel that he loves you the most, because you just can't imagine having been showered with such love and think that he has enough to do that for everyone, everywhere, always. Again, you see the quality of tamas can be used for the welfare of others. There are three classes of physicians: superior, mediocre, and inferior. Right. The physician who feels the patient's pulse and just says to him, take this medicine regularly, he belongs to the inferior class. He doesn't care to inquire whether or not the patient has actually taken the medicine. The mediocre physician is he who in various ways persuades the patient to take the medicine and says to him sweetly, my good man, how will you be cured unless you use this medicine? Take this medicine. I've made it for you myself. But he who, finding the patient stubbornly refusing to take the medicine, forces it down his throat, going so far as to put his knee on the patient's chest, he is the best physician. This is the manifestation of tamas, of the physician. It doesn't injure the patient. On the contrary, it does him good. So, you now have the Lord's definition of what a good doctor is. He'll tackle you, throw you to the ground, put his knee on your chest, and force your medicine down your throat. That's the best guru to have right there. Someone who just simply will not abide in compromise. That's the tamasic physician. And so you see the attitude he's trying to paint for us. It's like, push yourself, Am I not hearing somebody or something? I'm seeing seeing
Yeah.
something in the chat.
Yeah.
I
Somebody
was
say
just
something, see if
asking,
I can hear you.
what are the three holy hours? I wasn't familiar with
Oh,
that.
the three holy hours. Well, for us, they're breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're not actually those. The sunrise is one of the holy hours. Sunset, any confluence between day and night is considered a holy time, and midnight is considered a very holy hour. So,
Thank you.
but what's that? Yeah. So those are the holy hours. The mind is naturally calm at those times. And it's interesting, the different disciples had this conversation one time. I'm not sure where it is, but different cities, different holy cities have different times where the vibe in the city is particularly spiritual. And they were talking about those different times in the different cities when you get the most advantage for doing your practice in. And so, but for us, really, our most of our gurus, I know from talking to many disciples over the years, is to do your practice 3 times a day. Do it in the morning. If you want to do it at sunrise, that's a great time. Do it at noon or at lunchtime, sometime in the middle of the day, and then do it in the evening. And if you want, it's always a wonderful thing. Midnight meditation. If you're one of those people that wakes up in the middle of the night, it's wonderful just to get up and just take 15 minutes. You'll find that your meditation in the middle of the night is just beautiful. It really is. It's a really sweet time to think of the mind, because your mind is so empty of everything else. And so really the sound of God's name in the quiet mind is just a beautiful bell. A beautiful bell. Like the physicians, there are 3 types of religious teachers. The inferior teacher only gives instructions to the disciples, but makes no inquiries about their progress. The mediocre teacher, for the good of the student, makes repeated efforts to bring the instructions to him, begs him to assimilate it, and shows him love in many other ways. But there is a type of teacher who goes to the length of using force when he finds the student persistently unyielding. I call him the best teacher, right? So we've all seen those different types of swamis. You have the scolding swamis, you have the loving swamis, and you have the silent swamis, you know. And so find you a guru who'll put his foot in the middle of your chest and force you to do your practice, won't stand for it. It gives me that image of those Buddhist practitioners. If they nod, you know, they get whacked with the stick in some of those Zen monasteries. There's another group of monks that sit on the very edge of a very tall cliff to meditate, so that they won't dare fall asleep. They won't dare nod off. So that's tamasic engineering for your practice. And Thakur likes it. He's like, yes, take that attitude. Really run with it. A Brahmo devotee. Sir, has God forms or has he none? Master. No one can say with finality that God is only this and nothing else. He is formless, and again he has forms. For the bhakta, he assumes forms, but he is formless for the jnani, that is, for him who looks on the world as a mere dream. The bhakta feels that he is one entity and the world another. Therefore God reveals himself to him as a person. But the jnani, the Vedantist, for instance, always reasons, applying the process of not this, not this. Through this discrimination, he realizes, by his inner perception, that the ego and the universe are both illusory, like a dream. Then the jnani realizes Brahman in his own consciousness. He cannot describe what Brahman is. Do you know what I mean? Think of Brahman, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Think of him as a shoreless ocean. Through the cooling influence, as it were, of the bhakta's love, the water has frozen at places into blocks of ice. In other words, God now and then assumes various forms for his lovers and reveals himself to them as a person. But with the rising of the sun of knowledge, the blocks of ice melt. Then one doesn't feel anymore that God is a person, nor does one see God's forms. What he is cannot be described. Who will describe him? He who would do so disappears. He cannot find his I anymore. If one analyzes oneself, one doesn't find anything such as I. Take an onion, for instance. First of all, you peel off the red outer skin, and then you find the thick white skins. You peel those off one after the other. You won't find anything inside. In that state, a man no longer finds the existence of his ego. And who is there left to seek it? Who can describe how he feels in that state? It is in his own pure consciousness about the real nature of Brahman. Once a salt doll went to measure the depth of the ocean. No sooner was it in the water than it melted, dissolved. Now, who is there to tell us how deep the ocean is? There is a sign of perfect knowledge. Man becomes silent when it is attained. Then the I, which may be likened to the salt doll, melts in the ocean of existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, and becomes one with it. Not the slightest trace of distinction is left. This is that silent mind that Vili Chirata talks about in his sonnets, his poems. You know, that noisy mind is the fertilizer for ego, for egoism. That wandering mind that remorses for its past, longs for its future, that hungry ego. And so it is this consciousness of the moment, this presence of the moment, the divine presence in the moment as the moment. That's what dissolves the salt doll of the ego. And so that's why all you have to do, if you're the salt doll, there's not really anything in particular you have to do except be in the water, be in that conscious, be in that state of awareness. And so in this moment, be aware that the divine presence is the very moment you're experiencing. Being aware of that is enough. Being constantly aware of that is enough. You are a salt doll, and you dissolve in pure consciousness. And you'll dissolve into pure love, into pure wisdom, and pure being, without the slightest trace of distinction left, right? Any type of division or separation or particularization is the ego's. The ego is always making distinctions, always looking at things and deciding, oh, that's that, and it goes there, and it's related to this, and it's sort of like that, but it's not like that. That's egoism. As long as his self-analysis is not complete, man argues with much ado, don't we? Even in our internal world, we're arguing all the time with ourselves. We have an idea of how things should be, and then we have an idea of how we think things should be, and then we have an idea of what is spiritual, and we have all these things in our mind, and we just, before we have things figured out, we're just sitting there thinking back and forth the whole time. We've got a whole cacophony of diversity going on in the mind, all different kinds of opinions, and we fight within ourselves. So it's no wonder that we fight with others. When you're fighting with yourself, that's how you're going to be with others. When you've touched your divine nature, when you've just touched it, there's silence, there's quietness, because there's nothing more necessary, nothing more wanted. It dissolves the past in grace. It dissolves the future in contentment. And all you have is now, divine God, the lover, the beloved. And there's just silence, peace, the peace that passes understanding, the peace that can't be found in the mind, that can't be reasoned. It can't be discussed, because it exists eternally. It is not within time, space, causation. It's not within the mind. It cannot be held by the mind. As long as his self-analysis is not complete, man argues with much ado, but he becomes silent when he completes it. When the empty pitcher has been filled with water, when the water inside the pitcher becomes one with the water of the lake outside, no more sound is heard. Sound comes from the pitcher as long as the pitcher is not filled with water. People used to say in olden days that no boat returns after having once entered the black waters of the ocean. All trouble and botheration come to an end when the I dies. The I is the ego, the sense of distinction from anything else. You may indulge in 1,000 reasonings, but still the I doesn't disappear. For people like you and me, it is good to have the feeling I am the lover of God. Right? So he's telling us right there, ordinary folks, it's very difficult to get rid of that sense of I. And so we don't necessarily go for that path. We go for the path of making that sense of I a lover of God, making that sense of I a servant of God, or make that sense of I a child of God, or the mother of God, or the father of God. We take any of those relationships and we formulate our I around that, and that ripens the I. That helps us to identify the I as being separate from the self. It ripens it. We can feel ourselves rattling around in a mind and a body. And that distinction then, when it's time, is very easily made, very easily seen when the teacher, when the divine appears. And the soul just runs to him, not away from him. For people like you and me, it is good to have the feeling I am a lover of God. The Saguna Brahman is meant for the bhaktas. Saguna, with traits, with characteristics, with attributes. So God, the personal God, is what the bhaktas worship. It's hard to worship Brahman because Brahman has no attributes. He's beyond all attributes. So how will you fall in love with someone with no attributes? So that's why God does the grace of appearing, of taking a role in the world as a Krishna or as a Buddha or as a Jesus or a Ramakrishna. Saguna Brahman is meant for the bhaktas. In other words, a bhakta believes that God has attributes and reveals himself to men as a person, assumes forms. It is he who listens to our prayers. The prayers that you utter are directed to him alone. You are bhaktas, not Gyanis or Vedantists. It doesn't matter whether you accept God with form or not. It is enough to feel that God is a person who listens to our prayers, who creates, preserves, and destroys the universe, and who is endowed with an infinite power. It is easier to attain God by following the path of devotion. The Brahmo devotee: Sir, is it possible for one to see God? If so, why can't we see him? Master: Yes, he can surely be seen. One can see his forms and his formless aspect as well. How can I explain that to you? Brahmo devotee: What are the means by which one can see God? Master: Can you weep for him? Can you weep for him with intense longing of heart? Men shed a jugful of tears for the sake of their children, for their wives, or for their money. But who is it that weeps for God? So long as the child remains engrossed with its toys, the mother looks after her cooking and her household duties. But when the child no longer relishes the toys, it throws them aside and yells for its mother. Then the mother takes the rice pot down from the hearth, runs in haste, and takes the child up into her arms. So you see, God is pointing out here for us, the way that we see God is through discernment, where we stop looking in the world for him. We stop looking for objects that will give us that fulfillment. We've discerned and seen that the world is like a drop of water on a red hot skillet. It comes and it goes. There's nothing there. And when we can finally see that and believe that and know that in ourselves, that there is nothing here for us, nothing that can feed us or can make us content or fill us up, then we turn to the divine and we cry out. You know, that feeling of desperation, of having nothing, that dark night of the soul. You know, we cry to the beloved, and the mother runs, takes you up in her arms, and carries you the rest of the way. That's it. So be discerning. Watch your vices always. Discern and look through them. You know, if you engage in them, do so with full consciousness. Bring mother right there into whatever you're doing. You know, that's not helpful. Bring her presence there. That will help you see the nature of what you're engaged in. It'll help you see its effect on you. It will help you see that it has never helped and it has always hurt you. And we'll stop coddling things that are cutting us, things that are hurting us, that are harming us. The Brahmo devotee. Sir, why are there so many different opinions about the nature of God? Some say that God has form, and others say that he is formless. Again, those who speak of God with form tell us about his different forms. Why all of this controversy? Master, the devotee thinks of God as he sees him. In reality, there is no confusion about God. God explains all of this to the devotee if the devotee only realizes him somehow. You haven't set your foot in that direction. How can you expect to know all about God? Listen to a story. Once a man entered a wood and saw a small animal on a tree. He came back and told another man that he had seen a creature of a beautiful red color on a certain tree. The second man replied, well, when I went into the wood, I also saw that animal. But why do you call it red? It's green. Another man who was present contradicted them both and insisted, no, it's yellow. Presently others arrived and contended that it was gray, no, it's violet, no, it's blue, and so forth and so on. At last they started quarreling among themselves. To settle the dispute, they all went to the tree. They saw a man sitting under it. On being asked, he replied, yes, I live under this tree. I know that animal very well. All of your descriptions are true. Sometimes it does appear as red, sometimes as yellow, and other times blue, violet, gray, and so forth. It is a chameleon, and sometimes it has no color at all. Now it has a color, and now it has none. In like manner, one who constantly thinks of God can know his real nature. He alone knows that God reveals himself to seekers in various forms and various aspects. God has attributes, then again, he has none. Only the man who lives under the tree knows that the chameleon can appear in various colors, and he knows further that the animal at times has no color at all. It is the others who suffer from the agony of futile argument. Yeah. Live under that tree, my friends. Live under that tree so you can recognize the beloved in any form, in any building, in any person, at any time, on any day. Yes, indeed. Don't go looking at a world that's divided. Go looking for the beloved who unifies all of it. Kabir used to say, the formless absolute is my father, and God with form, my mother. God reveals himself in the form which his devotee loves the most. His love for the devotee knows no bound. God reveals himself in the form which his devotee loves the most. His love for the devotee knows no bounds. It is written in the Purana that God assumed the form of Rama for his heroic devotee Hanuman. The forms and aspects of God disappear when one discriminates in accordance with the Vedanta philosophy. The ultimate conclusion of such discrimination is that Brahman alone is real, and this world of name and form is illusory. It is possible for a man to see the forms of God, or to think of him as a person, only so long as he is conscious that he is a devotee. From the standpoint of discrimination, this ego of a devotee keeps him just a little way away from God. Just far enough away so you can give him a hug. Just far enough away so that you can dance, you could sing a song, you can laugh out loud. That's the difference between wanting to be sugar and wanting to eat sugar, as Thakur says. So as long as you see yourself as a devotee, as long as you see that separation, then God is there. God is there to be hugged, to be prayed to be longed for, to dance with, to sing with, to enjoy life with. But at some point you have to be ready, because you'll see that God can also be without form. And in that there's no dancing, there's only bliss, a single note held constantly, eternally, full to the brim of love, wisdom, and isness. Do you know why images of Krishna or Kali are 3.5 cubits high? Because of distance. Again, on account of distance, the sun appears to be small. But if you were to go near it, you will find the sun so big that you won't be able to comprehend it. Why have images of Krishna and Kali a dark blue color? That too is on account of distance. Like the water of a lake, which appears green or blue or black from a distance. Go near, take the water in the palm of your hand, and you will find that it has no color. The sky also appears blue from a distance. Go near, you will see it has no color at all. Therefore I say that in the light of Vedantic reasoning, Brahman has no attributes. The real nature of Brahman cannot be described. But so long as your individuality is real, the world is also real, and equally real are the different forms of God and the feeling that God is a person. Yours is the path of bhakti. That is very good. It is an easy path. Who can fully know the infinite God? And what need is there of knowing the infinite? Having attained this rare human birth, my supreme need is to develop love for the lotus feet of God. If a jug of water is enough to remove my thirst, why should I measure the quantity of water in a lake? I become drunk on even half of a bottle of wine. What is the use of my calculating the quantity of liquor in the tavern? What need is there of knowing this infinite? The various states of mind of the Brahmagyani are described in the Vedas. The path of knowledge is extremely difficult. One cannot obtain jnana if one has the least trace of worldliness and the slightest attachment to woman and gold. This is not the path for the Kali Yuga. The Vedas speak of 7 planes where the mind dwells. When the mind is immersed in worldliness, it dwells in the 3 lower planes, at the navel, the organ of generation, and the organ of evacuation. In that state, the mind loses all of its higher visions. It broods only on lust and greed. The 4th plane of the mind is at the heart. When the mind dwells there, one has the first glimpse of spiritual consciousness. One sees light all around. Such a man, perceiving the divine light, becomes speechless with wonder and says, what is this? What is this? His mind does not go downward to the objects of the world. The 5th plane of the mind is at the throat. When the mind reaches this, the aspirant becomes free of all ignorance and illusion. He does not enjoy talking or hearing about anything but God. If people talk about worldly things, he leaves the place at once. The sixth plane is at the forehead. When the mind reaches it, the aspirant sees the form of God day and night. But even then, a little trace of ego remains. At the sight of that incomparable beauty of God's form, one becomes intoxicated and rushes forth to touch and embrace it. But one doesn't succeed. It is like the light inside of a lantern. One feels as if one could touch the light, but one cannot on the account of a pane of glass. In the top of the head is the seventh plane. When the mind rises there, one goes into samadhi. Then the Brahmagyani directly perceives Brahman. But in that state, his body does not last many days. He remains unconscious of the outer world. If milk is poured into his mouth, it runs out. Dwelling on this plane of consciousness, he gives up his body in 21 days. That is the condition of the Brahmagyani. But yours is the path of devotion. That is a very good and a very easy path. Once a man said to me, "Sir, can you teach me quickly the thing you call samadhi?" That was probably me. I have to say. Everybody laughs. After a man has attained samadhi, all his actions drop away. All devotional activities such as worship, japam, and the like, as well as all worldly duties, cease to exist for such a person. At the beginning, there is much ado about work. As a man makes progress toward God, the outer display of his work becomes less and less, so much so that he cannot even sing the name and glories of God. Turning to Shivanath. As long as you were not here at the meeting, people talked a great deal about you and discussed your virtues. But no sooner did you arrive here than all of that stopped. Now, the very sight of you makes everyone happy. People now simply say, "Ah, here is Shivanath Babu." All other talk about you has stopped. After attaining samadhi, I once went to the Ganges to perform tarpan. But as I took water in the palm of my hand, it trickled down through my fingers. Weeping, I said to Haladhari, "Cousin, what is this?" Haladhari replied, "It is called Galitahasta in the holy books. After the vision of God, such duties as the performance of tarpan drop away." In the kirtan, the devotee first sings Nityamar Matahati. As the devotional and mood deepens, he simply sings Hati, Hati. Next, all he can say is Hati. And at last, he simply sings Ha and goes into samadhi. The man who has been singing all the while then becomes speechless. Again, at a feast given to the Brahmins, one at first hears much noise of talking. When the guests sit on the floor with leaf plates in front of them, much of the noise ceases. Then one hears only the cry, "Bring some luchi," as they partake of the luchi and other dishes. 3/4 of the noise subsides. When the curd at last appears, one hears only the sound soup, soup, as the guests eat the curd with their fingers. Then there is practically no noise. Afterward, all retire to sleep, and absolute silence remains. You see, he's describing here spiritual practice. In the beginning, our prayers are between God and you. We're talking to each other, telling them about our day. We're begging about our future. We're saying sorry for all the things that we've done. It's a constant dialogue going on with the beloved. But as that relationship grows and matures, after a while, you've already told all your stories. After a while, God knows all of your sins, and you know all of your sins, and you know how God grace and has taken care of those things. And so it just becomes a little bit more quiet. It just simply becomes about enjoying each other's company, however that is, if something extraordinary happens or something catches the attention. But even beyond that, it's the two old people and all that you need to do is just touch fingers across the table. That's enough. Everything's already been said. You know your love for each other is unshakable and forever, and just being together is enough. And then in that silence that happens in that state, when it's just this intimate presence, and that's enough, the silence that ensues after that is the death of the ego, and the two will become one. You'll realize that your love is so harmonious and so pure and so free of any particular that you realize that you and the lover are perfect together. There's no distinction anymore. The intimacy is complete. So this is our spiritual practice. This is why we do it. And this is why sometimes we get that eager mood, of wanting that long relationship. But you have to do a lot of work up front. You got to date a lot of people. You've got to have a lot of wrong ideas around things, and you'll argue them out and work them out. But eventually, after a lifetime of the beloved, one day you'll be laying there old in bed with a beautiful, beautiful smile, because you finally learned, you spent your life wisely. And when the body failed, when the desires dropped, when family is gone and you're lying alone, you have enough. You're full. You spent your life well. You're intimate with the divine. Therefore I say, at the beginning of religious life, a man makes much ado about work, but as his mind dives deeper into God, he becomes less active. Last of all comes the renunciation of work, followed by samadhi. Generally, the body does not remain alive after the attainment of samadhi. The only exception are the sages, such as Narada, who keep their bodies alive in order to bring spiritual light to others. It is also true of divine incarnations, like Chaitanya. After the well is dug, one generally throws away the spade and basket, but some keep them in order to help their neighbors. The great souls who retain their bodies after samadhi feel compassion for the suffering of others. They are not so selfish as to be satisfied with their own illumination. You are well aware of the nature of selfish people. If you ask them to spit in a particular place, they won't, lest it should do you good. If you ask them to bring a sweetmeat worth a cent from the store, they will perhaps lick it on the way back. But the manifestation of divine power are different in different beings. Ordinary souls are afraid to teach others. A piece of worthless timber may itself float across the water, but it sinks even under the weight of a bird. Sages like Narada are like a heavy log of wood, which not only floats on the water, but can also carry men, cows, even elephants. To Shivanath and the other Brahmo devotees, can you tell me why you dwell so much on the power and glories of God? I asked the same thing of Keshav Sen. One day Keshav and his party came to the temple garden at Dakshineshwar. I told them I wanted to hear how they lectured. A meeting was arranged in the paved courtyard above the bathing ghat at the Ganges, where Keshav gave a talk. He spoke very well. I went into a trance. After the lecture, I said to Keshav, "Why do you so often say things like, 'Oh God, what beautiful flowers you have made. Oh God, you have created the heavens and the stars and the oceans,' and so on? Those who love splendor themselves are fond of dwelling on God's splendor. Once a thief stole the jewels from the images of the temple of Radha Kanta. Mathur Babu entered the temple and said to the deity, 'What a shame, O God! You couldn't even save your own ornaments.' The idea,' I said to Mathur. 'Does he who has Lakshmi for his handmaid and attendant ever lack any splendor? Those jewels may be precious to you, but to God? They're no better than lumps of clay. Shame on you! You shouldn't have spoken so meanly. What riches can you give God to magnify his glory? Therefore, I say, A man seeks the person in whom he finds joy. What need has he to ask where that person lives, the number of his houses, the gardens and relatives and servants, and the amount of his wealth? I forget everything when I see Narendra. Never even unwittingly have I asked him where he lived, what his father's profession was, or what the number of his brothers. Dive deep into the sweetness of God's bliss. What need have we of his infinite creation and unlimited glory? The Master sings. Dive deep, O mind. Dive deep in that ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. Go seek, O mind. Go seek Vrindavan in your heart, where with his loving devotees Sri Krishna sports eternally. Light up, O mind. Light up true wisdom's shining lamp, and let it burn with a steady flame, unceasing within your heart. Who is it that steers your boat across the solid earth? It is your Guru, says Kabir. Meditate on his holy feet. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song that is. Dive deep into the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. Go seek, O mind. Go seek Vrindavan in your heart, where with his loving devotees Sri Krishna sports eternally. So the dell where Sri Krishna is dancing around the fire with the gopi girls exists eternally in your own heart, in you. You can go dance with them. Just find that grove. Find that fire of devotion around which they're dancing inside of you. This is yours. You are an heir to that dance, to that presence. I love the idea of diving deep into God's beauty. Just fall in. Just fall in. But the gems are hidden in the heart, not in the mind. It's not a matter of thought. It's a matter of is. Surrender. All right. Anybody have a question or a comment? Concern? Wonderful silence. All right. Jai Ma, Jai Thakur, Jai Jesus, Jai Rama, Jai Krishna, Jai Ramakrishna, Jai Holy Mother, Jai Vivekananda, Jai Buddha, Jai Chaitanya.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Swami. Just wanted to apologize for all the time my mic was on and I was making noise. I was grinding pepper noisily. I'm so sorry.
No worries. No worries. Life is made of such things. All right. Be
Thank you.
well, everyone. Jai Ma.
Thank you,
Jai
Maharaj.